I feel like we should be able to take images on an interchangeable lens camera and post them to Facebook like you can a smartphone. I feel like that's the kind of innovation that we need in these entry-level markets to get the ILC industry continuing to be relevant. Hey friends, in this video I want to provide some market commentary, and I know that's mostly what you get here on this channel, and so thank you for enjoying it. I really do. But let's get down to it. DP Review has released a couple of articles recently that I'd really highly recommend you reading. One is comparing the 60 Mark II to the 80D, and one is talking about why the interchangeable lens camera market is actually in danger. You know, I love the comments in forums, on my own videos, on other people's videos, on sites like DP Review. I feel like I gained so much from those. I really appreciate that. There were a couple of comments that really stood out to me on the 60 Mark II versus 80D comment section, and I'd like to read those to you and then have the opportunity to talk about them if you'll stick around. Canon sells so many different DSLR styles that every one of them is narrowly focused and custom tailored for a very specific market niche. The net effect is that Canon is essentially competing against themselves, and that is a pretty smart business decision. Has anyone else noticed that the topic has moved from should I buy Canon or Nikon or Sony or Panasonic or whatever, Pentax, to which Canon should I buy? It hasn't. For me, it's the exact opposite. The 60 Mark II marks the first time I thought that, gosh, I guess I'll never own a full-frame Canon. I'd actually be willing to spend the extra cash for 5D Mark IV, but the lack of an articulating screen put it off the table. So when I look at their product lineup, I end up choosing none of the above. And this is really interesting because I feel like, and I've said this before, Canon is doing the exact same thing that Nikon did, that Kodak did, and it ended up poorly for Kodak, very poorly for Kodak. It is being very bad for Nikon, and they're having to really push at innovation. I think the D850 is a big deal for that. But more than, you know, an individual company not doing very well for a couple of years, I think this lack of innovation is actually doing more harm for the interchangeable lens market than it is hopefully going to for Canon. You know, I hope it does for Canon, because that will help, you know, by voting with our wallets, with our dollars, people are gonna start realizing, Canon's gonna start realizing that consumers want more and better. And that's all that I want. I want more competition in that market space. But the competition that we're seeing in the market space is iPhone 7 Pluses, right? More people want better pictures, but more people don't want to have to buy a DSLR in order to make better pictures. And by Canon needlessly restricting what kind of features and tech goes into their cameras, they're only going to be, you know, diving faster off of the sinking ship into the ice cold waters below, unless they get some innovation going, kind of like Sony. But on the other hand, a company like Sony isn't making menu systems that are accessible to users. And this is kind of where I'd like to dive into the other article on smartphones killing the ILC industry. There's a couple of quotes here that I'd really love to read to you. The first, it's not even a question of if the $500 interchangeable lens camera becomes obsolete. It's a matter of when. Lots of people who do want the image quality benefits traditionally associated with a DSLR actually want nothing to do with a DSLR. To continue with that quote, DSLRs are big, confusing, and come with a significant learning curve. Camera manufacturers have been able to sell cameras to somewhat unwilling customers because they alone held the keys to better images. So once the device that's already in your pocket does just about everything a Canon T6 does, why on earth would you be bothered to buy a Rebel? You know, and this computational photography that we're seeing out of the portrait mode with iPhone 7 Pluses is not ending there. There's going to be better autofocus. That'll be the hardest hurdle to jump, right? But there's going to be more retouching. There's going to be more of this computational photography that can give you bokeh effects. And these iPhonographers don't care about viewing their images at 100% resolution. They don't care about pixel peeping. They don't care about the sharpness of the lens. They don't care about low light image quality. They don't care about zoom. Smartphones are, you know, going to be solving those problems, right? And what that means is that the current bread and butter of all of these giant ILC manufacturers is gonna vanish, right? And so what that means in you know, tangible terms is that cameras are going to be more expensive, R&D budgets will be smaller, and innovation will slow. And I feel like that's something that that we're already seeing. I mean, Canon is a great example of that. Sony and Panasonic, Olympus are not. I think they're still innovating. I think Fuji still innovating. I think there are a lot of companies that are realizing what's happening and they're saying we got to do as much as we can now to get to a point down the line where we can keep this thing going. But I think that there really are a lot of people who don't care. They just want prettier pictures. I'm not one of them. I don't think I could ever be one of them. I know I've converted my partner to be one of them, but most people I know could care less, right? They just don't care. They want something that's easy, and a smartphone is easy. I feel like if Sony could implement, iOS or Android like menus on their cameras with touch screens and touch to take a picture, touch to autofocus, and touch to go through simplified, easy menus, then a whole bunch more people would start using those. I feel like we should be able to take images on an interchangeable lens camera and post them to Facebook like you can a smartphone. I feel like that's the kind of innovation that we need in these entry-level markets to get the ILC industry continuing to be relevant, in order to keep the ILC industry relevant. And keeping it relevant means that you and I have to pay less for lenses and bodies that we want, and we don't have to wait as long for the innovations that we really feel like are necessary. And, I've been having that thought for a while. There's a video that I made a while back about it, but those two articles really just stimulated that for me. And so I'm very glad to credit DP Review and Allison Johnson and Richard Butler in particular for those two articles. I want to say thank you to them personally. But I would love to see what your thoughts are on this situation with the ILC industry. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.